So, being as we are considerably beyond our hard start, I'd like to thank you all for being here and sharing this time with us, with me specifically, because I'm going to be completely and totally selfish. I really, really enjoy the play here and how it has bloomed for me. It is my weekend without being a weekend, even in tense moments where I'm able to step away even temporarily and enjoy this little dark world that we share. It is without measure how valuable it is to me, and I thank you all for taking part in that. Even without Hestia, even without our friendly neighborhood Tremere, it is time once more for us to dive right in. And if there aren't any questions outside of finding out where we last left, which was with the decisions being made to take sides, to take arms, to engage in social contracts to better the coteries' position in their potential charging of the castle of the Castiglione and Tori, specifically Don Wojcik. There were several things that were made clear, namely that there is an internal civil war happening between Don Wojcik, and his wife. He, being the far more powerful, must be kept in the dark. There's also several things that are necessary for him to get back into his full grip of his power. One of which is attuning to their central site, which had been destroyed. Not knocked down or blown up or anything like that, but Vivi in the practicing of the skills that she learned at the hand of our federal government, she was able to disrupt their organization. And being as they were and are engaging in a battle on several fronts, in several wars, in several different pots, because they believe that they are smarter than, faster than, wilier than, able to withstand, outlast, and outplan nearly all of their enemies, keeping everyone distracted and separate and not allowing them to mass in force against them. They're able to play all these different chess games against an army of individuals. Part of the coteries' plan was to change that balance. Instead of them playing on 9 different chessboards against 9 different people, all separate from realizing that they're all facing the same central enemy, the same central antagonist, part of the coteries' plan was to unite several of the factions in cause, not even in true alliance, but just let's not work against each other. Let's play on the same board, or at least use the information from these multiplicity of boards to lay them low. And while those plans were being fomented and in consideration of starting, the Castigliones are beneath the surface, paddling and trying as hard as they can to maintain their grip on the chaos that they have fomented. They are trying desperately to ensure not only their survival, but their eventual rise to true supremacy. Because right now, no one considers them a threat, at least none of the kindred. Every kindred who faces them individually without looking too deeply into their books don't realize that the Castiglione and Tori criminal organization, all the humans that have owned several different businesses and fronts and several other enterprises, are wholeheartedly and manifestly the hand of the Hecata in the Chicagoland area. They are the guiding light for all of those many transactions. They are the king of the heat. They are the lead dog. The Samdi follow behind them because they have no choice. The Pisonobs and the others all towing the line. All without the width and breadth of the kindred society quite understanding how Byzantine and Machiavellian their lead is. Using the systems of law and authority against the kindred, against specifically the tower, has only provided them with mass dividends. They have been able to amass, co-opt, and otherwise usurp controls of several different criminal fronts. They have managed to galvanize themselves towards a singular goal without anyone being all the wiser. except the other Hakata, who understand that all of these little small chaotic actions being done by the various mob factions, by the various gang factions, by the various not quite legal gray area businessmen are being guided by Don Castiglione himself. 100 different things moving toward a singular goal, the collection and ownership of the various god machines throughout the area so that they have the sway to manipulate this is social zeitgeist in their favor. And with that brief recap, as confusing as it may be on the surface, I'd like to thank you all. This is officially Soup City Sins Season 15, Episode 1, gentled by two Veronese men. Now, as we've noted earlier in our small conversation, it is a reference to Shakespeare. It is a reference to Verona itself, which is, part of the third largest region, a municipality in Italy. In this particular case, that applies wholeheartedly to the Castiglione Tories. There are two families that are actually one, part of the larger famiglia of the Hakata. And even as on the surface, it is the Castiglione and Tory families, there's only but one head, and that is Don Castiglione himself. Even the slowly brewing clandestine shadow war with his wife is not something that is distracting enough for him that he's not able to play all of these boards. And with that realization, we pick up with the coterie arising for the evening. I know that the Don will be back in the Chicagoland headquarters of the Castigliones, St. Jerome's Parish, which is less than 3 blocks from the shelter, which is centrally located in their domain, which has an air of invulnerability officially by the Camarilla. It's a pact of non-interference, contract that goes right to the head 7 of the entirety of the Camarilla. So a direct assault, at least if they're caught in it, is beyond the pale. So with a quick rouse roll from everyone, would you be so kind as to let's proceed alphabetically with what you're doing this evening.
Oh shit, that's me. I'm not used to that. So, this is a new evening, correct?
Correct.
Then that means for Lucio, today's the day. The plan for him is to have him and Vivi meet with Blakeney and do whatever they can to stop the Don. And I don't think Lucio has actually told anyone in character that he's doing this.
No, he avoided it. He avoided revealing the details of his plan, merely stating that he needed to meet some people in preparation. Now, Don will be back in his homestead sometime this evening. He will be attuned to that central location sometime this evening. Arising for the night with the cresting of the sun beneath the horizon line, with plans to head out to meet Vivi and make a connection with Blakeney. Where did Lucio decide to die for the day? Did he stay at the shelter? Did he head home?
He most likely would have headed home.
So the solitude and the absence of life would be the permeating thought, because there would not be an overstatement to say that the place feels empty. He had not, in fact, lived here long enough to have too many memories that were not connected with Faye, Stella, and Arsenio, emptying into the space, the absence of that odoriferously delicious scent of weed permeating, the absence of Arsenio's cologne, the absence of the occasional giggles or conversations about the right and rectitude of society to protect those who can't protect themselves, as, Stella was wont to do. Those are all huge, glaring signs that there is no life here. Lucio's here, but there is no life here. The things that he took superficially for granted, having a nice safe place for his sister, and his sister without blood, and Arsenio, his cousin, his manservant, his able-bodied enforcer willing to literally die to protect him, his sister, and his family. All of that gone. The quiet would be deafening. The silence, a pain. There's no TV, there's no subtle electric hum from headphones. There's none of the usual affectations of home.
All of that is very much part of the reason why he chose to stay the night at his place, because he wanted that reminder of why he's doing this, why he's about to go behind the back of his own coterie to meet what was once his greatest enemy, as a reminder that this, to get back what he lost, is why he's doing this.
Are there any evening ablations that he would do upon immediately blinking and finding himself once more ambulatory? The strength of age is in his dead flesh, the absence of everything, and having a moment of clear, unpressured thought.
Lucio will make sure that he's appropriately armed for the situation. He's going to... He'll bring his phone with him, but he's taking the battery out of it because of the recent paranoia of being tracked with it. He's spending time looking at the symbol that was carved in his apartment by his visitor from not too long ago, trying to gauge exactly what it means and how he's going to find Blakeney with it. And he's also just trying to go through everything in his mind to make sure he's not forgetting something on his mental checklist, that he's not missing some crucial detail.
Would you be so kind to just go ahead and roll a wits plus awareness?
Oh, and he's also apparently hungry. But we'll deal with that later.
Yes, his success means that his hunger didn't grow, his breath didn't get louder, but where is his hunger actively at?
3.
Staring into the symbol that was carved into the wall, staring into the symbol, the endless physical manifestation of darkness incarnate. Being a detective, he, during his living days and even until the burgeoning nights of his death, certain things just make sense. Certain things click into place. Certain things are known without the conscious idea of having known them or knowing that they exist. It's just that connection that some people say it is a gut instinct. And even though he no longer needs to eat, there is a very big facet that is true about that. There's an unspoken knowledge, a felt and lived in space that gives you a hint that this is the right or wrong way. There's a feeling, an aura about a thing. And staring into the manifestation of darkness, he realizes in the coteries trip to the disco, the queen of spades disco, having done his research after, he knows that it was held by the primogen of Dalton Township, Don Von Evan, the longest reigning primogen of the Roses in Thornton Township. At the time you all visited, he was no longer the primogen, but it was still the rumor and gossip of his rule that held sway. The current primogen, Nicole Natalie something in, was the leader and had been for years, but her touch was far quieter, far subtler. She didn't have a place like the Queen of Spades. She didn't have the Disneyland of alternative thinking and alternative partying that the Queen of Spades was. No, Nicole moved like a ghost, controlling the social zeitgeist with whispers and subtle touches and the lack of touches to get things to move in the way that she wanted. Von Evan was a showman. He wanted something big and bold. He was in the spirit of P.T. Barnum. All cruelty, as long as it is entertaining, is acceptable. But part of that research also highlighted Dalton Memorial Hospital is a throwback to the days of yore when mental illness was locked away behind closed doors. Even in this modern era, it is, while accepted and acceptable, it is not nearly as obvious of a thing as most would like. There's some clarity on it, and it's no longer locking people away because they have issues, but it is definitely still a small bit of a stigma involved. And that stigma has left Dalton Memorial Hospital as the place where you send the bad kids, as the place where you send those who are problematically affected by their own issues. Dalton Memorial Hospital, and then it clicks. And boy, does it click. It is a joke of fate that the once insane, most powerful La Sombra in the Midwestern area is responsible for, caring for, and hold domain at a hospital bent towards caring for those with mental and emotional issues. The commercials are everywhere. They don't quite match up with the level of commercials and advertisement and social propaganda that Theist has, but it is notable enough that people immediately know that's where you send the bad kids. The place of last resort for those with mental and emotional and social issues. It's the place where, when all hope is lost, the last ditch effort, the last gasp. And it's almost laughable. Laughable enough that Lucio's beast rears its head and does everything he can to not pull a Chad and plant his fist into the wall, or flip a table, or otherwise make a mockery of his space. Because it is so infuriating how often the kindred parade what they are, who they are, with every non-exhaled breath of their existence. If you were SI, if you were one of the Theists, if you were one of the Leopolds, if you were even just a hunter, you would be like shooting ducks in a barrel, as the saying goes.
With that knowledge in mind, he's going to set out to find Vivi. And together they're gonna head on over.
not to drive how simplistic things are, but where do you think Vivi might be?
Oh, fuck. We established that she was staying at Loyola, correct?
Yes.
We'll try there. And who knows, there might be a bite to eat along the way.
Well, here's the funny thing is, and the part that continues ratcheting up the humor of Lucio's current existence. Vivi is waiting for him outside, leaning against the Cadillac that Arsenio was purchased by Hester, waiting on Lucio to leave his secret, safe home.
I shouldn't be surprised.
Shouldn't be surprised. No. Infuriated, however, the beast, in fact, very much is. This is supposed to be safety. This is supposed to be security. This is supposed to be a place where no one but those who needed to know would know. And here is his child, the existing embodiment of him having a heart, attempting to save some last vestige of something positive in the world. And she, as monstrous as you know all kindred are, is standing here in front of Arsenio's car, leaning against it, and knowing Arsenio the way that he does, Arsenio would have immediately begun wiping and cleaning the car down after she left, because you don't put dirty clothes on my car, you don't ruin the wax, you don't. And there she is. And with that thought in mind, speaking of, there she is. Miriam, meeting the high priestess of the Baharia, the Laka, in the area, in the middle of nowhere. You all went all the way to fucking Gary, that hellhole, and there she was, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She is clearly planning a resurgence of the Bahari as a whole, right underneath the noses of everyone who is hunting them down, driving them out. And there's some very hard to not see humor in that. Everyone would think that she is buried, dead, and over with. Everyone would think that the Bahari have been officially obliterated, that their last members, the kindred members, are no longer in existence, and yet it very much seems as if she's a living meme. Instead of burying her and killing what they are off, it seems as if they planted her in fertile soil. She's making contacts with all sorts of people based on the conversation you all took part of. How much longer do you think, with her vim and vigor, before the Bahari take over Dalton Township, before they take over Thornton Township, before they are an actual sect right under Prince Jackson's nose?
The thought is quite amusing. Which leads me to what I would probably be working on most of the early evening. Those lists that I found on those discs, compiling and, shuffling them off, one by one, trying to figure out if this is part of the cache that was left, or if it's an entirely different cache that we just happened to stumble upon.
There's lots of names for it. Fate, kismet, serendipity, happenstance. The truth of the matter is, you are sitting on treasure. It is, without a shadow of a doubt, some of the most damning information possible. And it doesn't say anything. There's names, addresses, places, but it doesn't directly say anything, but being able to read the tea leaves for what it actually is, there's no doubt in your mind that if this information falls into anyone's hands who has even the most superficially nefarious aims in mind, they could cause a crippling blow. They could devastate the area. And you and the coterie has it in hand.
Fabulous. And from what we could tell, they were working with the local voivode. Or am I misremembering?
Working with?
Yes. With.
Working for, being used by. It is several years ago, not even a full generation, but just several years ago, just under a decade or so, there was the idea even then of phone trees being in existence. It was a safety system for various social groups, for various neighborhoods, various members of family. It was what would happen if there was an emergency. This person would call this person would call these two people would call those two people, and before you knew it, you could amass a unit, a cadre of capable, or at least believed capable individuals to surmount any problem facing that social group or that family or that neighborhood. This provides you the door keys to a massive phone tree, a contact network of individuals that are at the beck and call, or blackmail, or just simply being extorted by the Voivode network of individuals. They are able to get things done.
After I sit with this for a little bit, I will just snap off a simple text to Cornelius that says cache of names ? And just wait and look through the disc some more for other information about the grimoire.
There's always connection. There's always a pattern. Man's mind works in that way. It connects and makes all sorts of things possible to be viewed as connected, like the rule of 3 or the rule of 7 or the rule of 5 or the 4 stages of grief or whatever it is. Everybody creates these patterns and systems in their own mind to justify how things operate. One of the first things that you hear constantly with movies and books are, the killer had a pattern, we just had to figure it out. No, that's not entirely true. Especially looking at this list, you have individuals that clearly are from a different generation. There are some that are clearly too old for this world to be of any physical viability, yet they're listed there. You recognize several professors' names. You also recognize names that have to be a joke. Fuck Luck, Phucluc. Someone known as Kyler, someone else known as E.L. Smith. There are several names and several identities that stand out to you, either through social gossip and rumors, or worse, you have hands-on knowledge of what that person might be or who they are. There's a pharmaceutical magnate listed. There is someone simply noted as Wizard Soroka. There are all manner of individuals listed here, and the information is connected with several others. It's not alphabetical. How it's connected doesn't seem to make much sense, but they are. On one page, one electronic digital page, there's 5 names. On the next, there's 25. On the next, there's 167, and it just goes on and on. These have been compiled for use for and against others.
All right. And she will sit with that for a while, just trying to piece things together.
She'd like to. And her stalwart intestinal fortitude, being what it is, a while is normally long enough to get lost in a vision. A while is normally long enough to gather not just one singular thought, but several, and alternative strategies and thoughts and theories. However, her rising beast, however, has another idea entirely. Right above her head, right there, not far away, are living snacks. Kneel on the hoof. And to say that she needs them, she wants them, she craves them, would be underselling what is actually ticking away just beneath the surface of her.
A snack might be nice, but she will continue on her path for a little bit longer at least.
And continuing on that path, as all things is connected, and with all things there's a pattern, whether it's one of our own creation or not. There is always a pattern, and that pattern for Sophia in this very much is not for the first time, not for the last time. Your family specifically, via you, via your mother, via several ancestors who are not in their graves as they should be, and some who are nose to nose with a member of the Puttanesca. Because while the names change and while the families grow like branches from a dead tree, the Castiglione and Tories are in fact part of the Puttanesca family. Whether they've usurped the title as the primary family or not, in your gut, in your heart of hearts, your unbeating dead center of you, they're still Puttanesca. They're still the craven, cowardly, deviously deceitful dogs of the Giovanni family. They are very much usurpers of every throne they come near to defiling. And not for the first time. And most assuredly, based on how things are progressing, may not be for the last time, a Rossi stands in their path to dominance. Because how much longer would it take if they collect and take ownership of and attune to enough God machines to take full authority in the Midwest? Their tendrils stretch from Canada all the way down to Brazil. Their centers of power growing in strength because each God machine adds to the strength of the next one. Each god machine allowing a certain control of the social zeitgeist, the mores, the feelings and whispers that exist all around us, changing the room sound so that their voice takes preeminence. If they are as successful as they have been and continue being as successful, continue their path of destruction, their swath of control, how long before they usurp the Giovannis as the central family? The central and predominant face of that arm of the family. And then who would stop them? Sophia, did we lose you?
Is she trying to find the skull?
Maybe.
Okay.
No, I didn't hear it. What was it?
What's Sophia's plans for the evening, considering she is aware as to how important each of the god machines are, how important each attuning is, and what that may mean in the long run for the Castiglione Torres, i.e. the Puttanesca, i.e. the Giovanni.
All right, well, she went home, so she's there. First thing she's going to do is tap that herd, clean out her stock, because she's pretty hungry, and she's been sitting at that 3 hunger for a while now. So let's take care of that. After that, she is, I don't know, probably going to contemplate how she's going to solve all this shit that she's dug herself into, and probably not come up with any better solution than what she already had. And possibly throw mental darts at mental dartboards and wait for somebody to call and need her to come do something.
Okay. So throwing darts at the mental dartboard, seeing where it lands, which might be the best path forward to ensure that the Castiglione Torres don't usurp not only the Puttanesca, but the Giovanni as a whole, because they have proven themselves and taken full ownership as the central family of the Puttanesca arm of the La Famiglia. Their pater speaks with a louder voice. People are listening to them more, and if the Castiglione keeps on their path of successes, because they are just consternating enough to keep most people off balance, so that they can sneak the win, they can steal the gold, they can slip past the defenses and plant their flag and remain king of the hill, at least temporarily. The fact that the Don has not remained attuned to St. Jerome's means that technically, as a member of the family, as a member of the Hakata, that by Sophia attuning to St. Jerome's, she would be able to usurp at least a portion of their control in the area. She would not be violating any sorts of contract in the doing. She would need a distraction. She would need to steal enough of his attention to do so herself.
Well, it's a shame we didn't already have a distraction lined up, isn't it?
So in preparation of draining and finishing her stock, while more is being gathered, of course, because, well, that is what good retainers do. Is there anything else that Sophia might be attempting in the early hours of the evening upon first resurrecting?
No, I'd say at this point, she'd check in with her other retainer, who wasn't assigned to do anything at the moment anyway, and then I guess gather the materials that she will need to pull the rug out from underneath good old Don while he's being distracted.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus occult while you're gathering your materials? And while that roll is happening, while other plans are being prepared, it's been a rough night. It's been a rough night and a week of rough nights. It's been a week of rough nights and a month of rough nights. It has been a steady forward decline in what the middle ground of being safe, secure, sane, and relatively happy kindred that Hesha has been throughout the bulk of her last few decades. Sitting looking at the amassed loss, the amount of hardship, heartache, pain, in comparison to the small victories of having singular nights unaccosted, Hesha has no course, has no choice in the matter in accepting that the continual effort and push of the dawn has stretched back to the moment when Simone disappeared to go speak with your angel investor, to the moment when Simone caught the attention of Maxwell, to the moment when Simone caught the attention and challenged the One-Eyed King, to the moment where the coterie, as it was, entered into the larger arena of political machinations that stretched back centuries. There's nothing wrong with being a pawn until you realize that you are a pawn and you no longer want to be a pawn. The question remains, having risen for the evening with all of those many thoughts circulating, with the realization that Simone, in his attempt to deal with what he called the detective, was dealing with Maxwell, the former prince of the city. And several things stand out, namely his insistence that Capone wasn't dead, despite Prince Jackson having secured his place as prince with the death of Capone. All of those little small thoughts tickling Hesha's mind. Where does that place her upon awakening and resurrecting for the evening?
Of course, she had kept the, I guess you call it serial killer board in her room. And that was the place she tended to turn to if things were confusing. And over the past few months, as things have unraveled or been solved or moved around, she's made changes to it. So looking at it tonight and realizing all those little things in those moments in time when a change for the worse was made by somebody other than herself causing her to have to react. It's like, yeah, feeling like you have no control over your life and that you've been being pawned or guided by somebody else, and it almost enough to make her just tear the whole strings and pins and pictures off the wall, but that wouldn't solve anything. But it does kind of give her an idea. The lines trigger a thought in her head about, he broke the lines the other night and they fixed them. What if she stops the power at a point to keep it from going to the church? And that sends her looking for a possible book of the ley lines that she knew that Karen had for the area, so that she could maybe find a point to choke off the power so that it doesn't go to the church and stops the ritual that way, maybe. Because she doesn't trust that Sophia completely told the truth about it just being shooting up the church that would throw this whole thing off. She wants a backup plan.
Okay, that being the case, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your intelligence plus occult? Interesting indeed. There's an old saying that went into existence long before any of the characters were thought up, long before any of us dreamed of these ideas of these characters, long before any of us even existed in the fictional and the real world. All roads lead to Rome. One of the things that escaped constant perusal, one of the things that, it's literally the old Southern saying, if it was a snake, it would have bit me. Something so plain and obvious that it is easily overlooked. There are certain places on the map that are hubs, certain larger pools, nests, oceans, lakes, little small and larger areas where, even with all the changing at hinted at over the years through the deaths and lives of those who lived in the area, remain resolute throughout. Those areas, those places, like all things, are connected. What affects one affects them all, either in ramping up the available energy or draining it to a trickle. Sophia has been very wily. Sophia has been very much in the methodology of need to know. As too has been DuSable. As too has the few moments you've had to speak with your sire, when you've managed to traverse time, space, and all semblance of what is real to do so. As have you been with your own self. There's a trick of language that has very little to do with communication, at least clear communication. Language The language centers of the mind are separate from the cognitive functions of the mind and are separate from the speech functions of the mind, even though they're all needed in relaying information. They all work independently of themselves, combining the information into a way that can be communicated, can be shared, can be understood. The information sitting right here in her face has been there, been hinted at. And while the names change, the reality of it is simply this. The energy of the world exists in its own spectrum. That includes the supernatural world. The ley lines, the dragon rolls, the dragon nest, they are all part of that system. As your efforts over the last few nights have proven. As your actions over the last few nights have proven. And there are hubs that are connected. The shelter, St. Jerome's, the cemetery where you all hid the lodestone, the remnants of the Queen of Spades, the church where View and Felix met you all, the church where the Castigliones have set up their southern protectorate, the factory in Gary. There's a school listed as well. There's several other places, including Gary International Airport, which is sitting just south and east of where you are currently, forming a web of energies. And at each of those locations, at each of those places, there has either been a Castiglione or a member of the Hakata, somehow involved, somehow there. Except the shelter.
That gives her both hope, but also pause, because how did that happen? How did it happen that she is holding the only spot of major power in this area when she's surrounded? And it feels very much like a setup. But now that she has it, she is going to do her damnedest to keep it.
And therein lies the problem, because as she's trying to figure out why this, why that, how is it aligning that way, Simone's smiling face constantly keeps popping up out of memory, keeps swimming forward. Capone, it's about Capone, ain't it? His barely contained African accent making it sound far more obscene than it was intended. His smiling, constantly keeping small things to himself. It's about Capone, isn't it? And a few things that he constantly shared and harped on, even to the point of having your own hierophant, your own student, beginning to say the same. You remember him saying much the same, following along behind Simone and saying, "It's about Capone, isn't it?" Alexander even began to say, "It's about Capone, isn't it?" And all of the visions of the shadow cats.
That makes her groan deeply, because she realizes it very much is about Capone. And Capone, whether he's dead or not, has been a thorn in Hestia's side this whole fucking time. As I remember talking about it, she had been having the lawyer look into their angel donator and trying to work it so that the contract around the Haven took away some of that person's power as to having control over the Haven. And
you know, that's the funny thing about old contracts. As nonsensical as they can seem to the average person, there's a million miles of legalese designed to maintain things as they were in perpetuity. And your lawyer has not had the opportunity to get back to you because of you keeping such strange hours and because of the busyness that has been in your life. And you look towards your cell phone thinking, when was the last time you actually had an opportunity to speak with your lawyer or they reached out to you? And speaking of reaching out and making contact with disparate individuals, Lucio standing there with Vivi in front of Arsenio's caddy. You know where you need to get to. The how is always the question. You have the why, you have the whom to assist you, but how are you going to get to Blakeney?
Well, the Cadillac that Vivi has decided to scuff up would be a convenient way. I'm assuming the keys are still here.
They are.
Before he finalizes the decision, he asks, how exactly did you get here?
You don't want to know.
I do, because if you...
You really don't. You're not going to like it very much.
Because if it means we can use that way to get to Blakeney undetected, all the better.
Not exactly. I have a friend who is surprisingly a good detective as forensically in regards to the social media. And they take hints and take information provided to them. Your sisters, Faye, Stella, they have, well, at least until a few weeks ago, a very healthy social media presence. And while they were smart enough not to take pictures of your street, at least not from the outside, there's metadata in all of their selfies and all of their TikToks. No one ever thinks of the metadata. And with so many pictures all from the same location, it doesn't take much to do a small bit of investigating and find out that, and she points to Arsenio's Cadillac.
Well, cat's out of the bag for this place, I guess.
I'll leave it if someone knows what to look for. Luckily, I know your sister. And your other sister, who's not really a sister. How does that go? Why is that such a weird thing to me? I thought you two were adopted.
Relationships are complicated. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, that was very easy. I assumed that I might have to make some recompense for you, or to you, about perhaps potentially, incidentally invading some of your space. So I had my friend do a little more digging, and their last social media post from a few nights ago. Your sister looks very good in a nice cream-colored bathrobe, by the way. I'm not sure if you are aware of their current place. It looks a little rich for a college student's price range, and the robe looks luxurious.
Where are they?
She pulls out an honest-to-goodness flip notebook from the mid-'80s at latest. Leather-bound and well used, but it's one of those that can be refilled. She flips through a couple of pages and she shows you the address. They were here. I'm not sure if they are still here, but one would not expect such comfort in a bar of all places.
Does Lucia recognize the location?
Looking at the address. Recognize it directly? Not so much, but... There you go. Sorry about the loud tapping. Ha.
Well, at least they're safe for now, but...
But are they?
No.
According to the Google information on the location, it's a simple hole-in-the-wall bar. Why would they have such a rich, sumptuous style?
Because
Bathrobe.
it's probably being funded by computer fans. I highly doubt they would leave their two precious hostages in the hands of some random schmucks.
Yes, but it's not connected with the Castiglione or any of their businesses that I could find.
Which is why it was a great choice. It makes it not obvious if someone like me were to investigate.
I suppose, but it seems like a trap.
We'll file it away for later. As long as they're unharmed, that's enough. Tonight, I'm planning to meet with Blakeney. I know where Don's going to be later this evening. He's going to be at St. Jerome's.
Why would he go back there? I made sure to ensure that it would be at least a year before his priest was properly healed. I made sure. Why would he go back there?
It's not about the priest, it's about the energies of the location, so to speak. Are you up to speed on ley lines?
You mean the stuff from the Veronese Palladium game? Yes, and I like the idea of strange things being able to come through various ley lines and travel and float on the ley lines. I've always wanted to be a techno wizard. My brother would play the game with his friends back in high school.
Well, maybe you'll get your chance. Here's the long and short of it. They're after various places of power, such as the shelter. That's why they want it so bad. It's because it's got connections to spirit world, and the Akata as a whole are all about that, controlling the dead spirits. St. Jerome's is also one such place, and it is one of the most important ones because it is apparently their main headquarters. The Don is apparently going to attempt to retake the location, to reattune to it, so to speak. He's not yet back in power. He will be by tomorrow night, but he's going to be there tonight to begin the process. And that's where you, me, and Blakeney come in. Tonight's the night he'll be most vulnerable. after that, there's no telling when we'll get another chance.
You don't strike me as the wizard. Is this from Hestia to let you know this? Because I'm curious. Does the Don know that we know and could plan for it? He's managed to avoid me by being everywhere where he should not be when he should be somewhere else.
It's hard to say how much he knows. He knows that Hestia is Tremere. He knows that Sophia has been helping us, but at the same time, he also knows that Sophia can't tell us everything. There are certain rules that even the family must follow, even when they're in conflict. And based on the few times we've actually interacted with him, he seems to think that we don't really understand what we have, the value of it. So I'm inclined to believe he doesn't really think we know. At least not the specifics.
Good. And she crouches down and pulls out what looks like a guitar case from beneath the car. It's far thinner than any guitar you've seen, unless of course it's an electric, but at that length, it'd have to be a bass, maybe?
Subtle, Lucio just says.
I thought you'd find it funny. You didn't bring my last rifle with you, so I had to get another.
What kind is it this time?
The kind that I don't mind the barrel melting.
Fair enough.
Would you be so good as to roll your intelligence and firearms?
Another one?
It is just your night. Your beast speaks to you. Luckily, there's not much the beast can do with knowledge beforehand. Sniper rifles are made to withstand higher pressures and higher heat. Even to the point where even if slightly warped, they're still effective, just at less range. The hint or the suggestion that she's okay with the barrel being melted suggests that she is in fact using high incendiary rounds. Fire. Flame. The bane of kindred existence. It's the little brother to the sun, after all. Speaking of little brothers and familial connections, as Lucio and Vivi mount up and head quickly and safely towards the south suburbs to meet with Blakeney and God knows who else she may have in her sway at this point, considering she's been sober and in the right of mind for the last few months since the coterie, via Dizzy's hand, ended her caretaker, the source of the madness that had plagued her for long enough to end Lucio's human life. The text coming so quickly on is curious. Miriam's sire is not a horrible individual, but no kindred is ever clean. No kindred is ever not selfish, looking out to their own best interests, because after all, one does not survive on the mercies of others. One can't. The world will eat them, will swallow them whole, in the best case scenario. In the worst case scenario, they'll be forever enslaved, indentured, and otherwise used. The speed of the response is curious. The speed of the response speaks to the true wealth and value of what may be at her hands.
Well, I don't think that she would forward the entire cache right away. Maybe just one of the several discs for now. And from there, see where it goes, because the information, as far as she can tell, would also be valuable to the disco and to the local voivode, or other people if she were willing to play.
Oh, it most assuredly is. There is a wealth of information there that has, even with careful plumbing, you would not be able to reach the depths of any time soon. What, for you, as you're deciding which information to pass along, what stands out even more so is what you learn as you touch on those connected with and associated with Voivod Domestricu. He is the Voivod of North in the not far from Fort Sheridan area. It's the North Shore. It's country club areas where people have more money than common sense. The fact that he lives so close, and that Chicago holds not one but two members of the Dragons that call themselves actual Voivod. For within the clan itself, that title is Lord of the area, Lord of the region. Typically, there would be one at best, and no one would know or call them as such, but you have two who are clearly called as such within the area. As you parse through the list of what to send to your sire, I'll just put that in the character messaging for you here. As you parse through the information, this subtext pops up as you click on one name after the other. You click on the address that's connected with that one, and then forward into the address that's connected with that one, and then you click once more as you're selecting information to send to your sire. You click one time too many, as the saying goes. You go a little too far, and then this information pops up. It's not a detailed dossier or anything as damning as that. There's no, maneuvers, moves that they've made, people they're connected to, but that information pops up on your screen. There are certain words that are like screaming fire in a movie theater for the kindred. There are certain things that cause an immediate rise, and they're unmoving, undead, unbeating heart. Those words for kindred who are not foolish are Sabbat, an archbishop, because that means in the hierarchy of sins that the monsters of the Sabbat are, anyone connected with that title is someone worthy and capable of moving mountains at a whim.
does. Yeah, she's gonna sit on that name for now. And send the previous sequence to her sire. And just ponder for a bit. She is nothing if not thoughtful. Was there a name associated with it? Or just the blurb?
Just the blurb. Because the person associated with them has a line drawn through their name, which she has come to understand being stricken through means they are no longer in actual living. No longer in actual existence. But the address is troubling. It's close enough to spit on if you were large enough. It's close enough to have every ability to affect the world around them if they wish. And in connection with the idea of a grimoire, which has several less than stellarly polite and positive uses. It's like knowing that your neighbor's house is going to get hit with a
lightning
drone
bolt
strike. Yes, a lightning bolt. Zeus's, yes. And you can't find the keys to your car. And you know that no matter how fast you think you are, there's no outrunning the shockwave, the aftershock of a missile strike or a lightning bolt hit.
But if you survive it, you get some pretty awesome scars.
You know what they say. People dig scars.
Yeah, she's just gonna sit on that information for a bit. Because, yeah, that's a lot to handle.
Could always be worse. You could have incidentally had a way to incite them to action. You could have, I don't know, been part of a coterie known for kicking in doors.
Sing shit.
Yeah, kicking in doors, taking names, all that good stuff. It's not like you're connected with a coterie that are known as the weapons of the Camarilla or anything, right?
Right? That's just entirely coincidental.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So sitting on those thoughts and trying to decide on what to do, knowing that tonight is the night as far as Don Castiglione returning to power or re-usurping whatever power they have at their disposal, knowing that Don Castiglione has put you on a timetable for producing the location of his son, knowing that, well, between a rock and a hard place, there really is no way out. Between Sela and Charybdis, it's just a matter of which suck do you want to embrace more. So what is it going to be? For Miriam, as she sits and ponders what lay ahead for them, you are sitting on enough information and enough value that would make you a target or a victim to almost anyone who finds out you have it. You are sitting within the blast range of a thermonuclear device. You are a stone's throw away from a center of power being sought after by, well, let's just be perfectly honest, an undead sociopath.
Only a sociopath? That's such a kitten.
And you are aware that their secret war that has been happening for months, years, and decades has finally reached a point where the Bahari are digging in, preparing for what happens next.
So, after a few minutes, she's going to exit her room and go in search of Hestia.
When the chips are down, they are down. All bets have been made. So rising from that eternal reverie and making your way through the shelter, the haven, realizing that there has been some ingenuity in place. There's several little traps that you've gotten accustomed to maneuvering around and stepping past. There are several blind places that ambushes can be staged. There's some paranoid, insane person set the haven to be so easily and well defensible that attacking it directly should be a death sentence to anything that was living that tried to do so. And with that thought in mind, reaching Hestia's suite of rooms. It is 5 after the hour. Let's come back here at 15 after and continue from here.
Hey.
All right, let's see where we are. Who's back?
Here.
I'm here.
I'm back.
Excellent, excellent. Speaking of back, diving right in as we were, as Miriam makes her way through the Byzantine maze-like structure that is the shelter's haven, from floor to get to Hestia's laboratory and suite of rooms. The Byzantine is also being navigated by Sophia. The collection of articles, implements, tools, and ingredients necessary for what lay ahead of her. There's always a balance for things being so easy. There's always the other shoe that will fall. Anytime the world, anytime fate, anytime energies are invested to make things easy, it is because, well, worst case scenarios are almost definitive. And looking at the assortment of things collected, all of the rare ingredients, the skulls, the bones, the ashes, all of the tools and tricks of the trade necessary to successfully not only stop the attuning, to perform one as well. As they say, tonight is the night. Now is all that we have. But the ingredients, accoutrement, and miscellanea collected, what is Sophia's agenda?
Well, it seems like the most prudent course of action would be to round all that crap up and get on over to the church so that I can at least set up some preliminary things, or hope to, before the enemy gets on site and says, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Excellent. I'll let you roll for your loyal manservant. your retainer to help with the stealth necessary to accomplish such a thing at such a local hub of activity. One of the many problems with St. Jerome's, and one of the many things that made it such a great location, is that unlike of the 526 churches in the Chicagoland area close enough to be of any use, it is one of the few that acts as actual sanctuary. It's one of the few that upholds the tenets of the church. Succoring the poor, reaching out to the needy, ensuring that man was kind to man, feeding the poor, sheltering those that they can. In short, unlike the vast majority of modern churches, its doors rarely close, and even rarer still, lock. Built in the old style that is significant because churches of old really were sanctuaries. They could hold out against armies, against battle and strife in the world around it. Built in the style that it is a stronghold unto itself. And so, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll 6 dice for your combined ability to sneak into the area and make preparations?
Absolutely. This is for Silvio, right? So no hunger.
Yep, no hunger. Well, he hungers, but he doesn't eat blood.
Right. Other things. I think me or Silvio will spend a willpower on that.
Fire away. There is something scary about such a large man moving so stealthily. He is not blessed, cursed, or damned with the ability of kindred. Not directly. He is not immortal in any real sense of that definition. Yet, for all of his bulk, for all of his overlapped muscles and well-defined structures, he is virtually and audibly invisible in his machinations, making sure that the north is properly painted with ash as per your instructions, making sure that you all escape notice of those who are entering into the church. And that's the rarity. That's a telling thing, because you passed this church several times in the last week, in the last month, and since the attack that Vivi leveled against it, all but shuttering it completely, and it has never been this active. It's never been this filled with people coming and going. It's never been so noticeably alive as it is tonight. As if someone's stocking the larder. As if someone's purposefully set into motion, having as many people near at hand as possible. Now, there are several things that could be for, whether it's just for some kindred to make sure that they can feed without catching notice, or not scare the sheep enough, because, you know, the more that there are in one area, the safer they feel. But knowing what business the Castigliones specifically and the Hakata have branched off into, and the wars fought locally over that trade. So many people that would be so easy to be forgotten speaks ill of what lay in store for the night. Is it feeding kindred? Is it sacrifice? Is it some combination of the two, or something far worse? Something is most assuredly afoot, and while you know that the dawn will be attuning once more to St. Jerome's and the power therein, well,
Looks like somebody plans on making a rather large offering this evening.
And with such a success in stealth and plotting and laying in wait and in preparing, Sophia and Silvio are in presence, in visual line of sight, as first one nondescript, average, middle-ranged SUV circles St. Jerome's once and twice, then the opposite direction, and then another moves into the area, parking across the street from the front entrance, then another pulls in behind it. People are arriving, and the wrong sorts of people are arriving. Men of swarthy Mediterranean features, dark suits, clearly of a financial status above their obvious means, clearly packing heat, clearly the sort of rough and tumble individual that they don't make anymore. 3, not a problem. 4, not a problem. 3 carloads, small problem. Silvio is skilled, but facing men of his cloth does have its downsides. The odds go from markedly in your favor and his favor to maybe there might be a little bit of an uphill struggle here.
Well, we will try to stay out of sight as much as we can. Sophia will look to Silvio at some point when we're tucked away and say, "You have fun, yes? Perhaps we should contact Hestia or perhaps Miriam and let them know the amount of muscle they have amassed, just so they are prepared for such."
That's surprisingly prudent. Sure thing. And he whips out his phone. And like all men of a certain style of understanding of the world, his screen is almost completely black. There's no bright flash of LCD illumination when he swipes through it. No, it's almost completely absently black from any distance of more than a foot. It's a sort of small detail that highlights all of the many dark places that Silvio has visited and managed to survive. And as he texts away, speaking of contact and making connection, Hestia, as you're looking at your memory board of facts, details, and considering how this will fall in the worst possible way, how many people have had their claws at the coteries' necks, how many people have sought their blood, and how all of those paths and all those trajectories, the coterie is still here. The shelter is still in your control. You all are withstanding the flood of others' evil machinations and intentions. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve and composure for me? Hiding the momentary grip of fear on your heart is almost impossible, because as you're there looking at where everything has lined up and all of the many hurdles along the way have seemingly started from one singular point, and you're looking at your phone, considering when the last time your lawyer reached out to contact you. Miriam is there, like a ghost out of nowhere. Like she just popped up and materialized, teleported right there in your space.
If you've ever seen what happens when you startle a cat, that is literally what
It's
happens.
really funny.
It's literally what happens with her. She's sitting there, and when Miriam appears, she like leaps about her height off the ground, spinning around and landing.
Now does she puff up too?
Her hair is very curly, and when she doesn't tie it back, it's like a big fluffy fro thing. So yeah. Like, don't. Fuck, if I was dead already. Shit. Oh.
Hey, interesting night.
My lawyer might be dead. The really expensive lawyer that I had to sell some items from my original home to keep and maintain might just be dead. The lawyer that I had looking into a way to get us out of the contract with somebody who I believe is working for, or might just be Al Capone under another name. I had not heard from him in weeks, and now I need to find out fucking why. Oh. And then I need to find a way to stop the energy flow from here to the church so that ritual doesn't happen. And I don't know if I have enough personal power to do that. I mean, I'm really good with dragon roads, but I don't know. Inducible never likes to come here. He would be able to help me, but then I don't know if he'd want to help me because of the fact that I haven't been a very good Tremere lately, and I promised I'd start going to the Chancery more often, but I haven't because of the stupid fucking council and them having me running around chasing my fucking tail. Sorry.
You're
I didn't
fine.
ask how your night's been going.
No, it's
Have you figured anything out?
you could say that. So our dear hearted Ignacio left us a cache. Apparently of a lot of people. And some dead people, including a former archbishop type of people. And a lot of disco type of people.
Wait. What now? I remember you. Okay, I heard disco. And I remember that night, and I remember that there were a lot of people there that night. Some of which we were actually managing to save, but...
And some people who are only vague. Think of it kind of like a telephone tree. You call a person, or you call two people, those two people call two people, those two people call those two people, and so on and so forth. Gets the word out really quick. Yeah, there are some names. But yeah, it's... You know how we have a target on our back already? Yeah, this is gonna make it worse.
Wait. How in the hell it could possibly be worse? Like burn the shelter down worse? Like
a bunch of different people want these people dead sort of worse? And would kill us to get this list kind of worse?
Well, fuck. Who knows we have this list? Shit. Oh, fuck. We were just there and Silk knows you were looking for something. Fuck. Oh, great.
Oh, so it gets better? There's this thing in Legends called a grimoire. I think it might be nearby.
I'm familiar with the word, yes.
Yeah, I think it might be nearby. Or might be in the cache somewhere that I just haven't figured it out. But yeah, it's... yeah.
Grimoire for what? They're usually only... The thing is, a grimoire typically is a magic user's book. It's very specific, usually, to the owner. Most people who own the grimoire have made their grimoire themselves because there's a process to it. You're imbuing your intention in every page. And then you're usually writing spells or rituals or information in that book. And it's like a power holder. It holds power. So why would we be looking for a grimoire? And who does it belong to? Because I don't want to go pissing off somebody that would be powerful enough to make themselves a grimoire. I've never made myself a grimoire for that very reason. Because it requires far too fucking much work and blood magic and other shit tied into it.
So, just as a guess, just thinking this through, it came from Ignacio. He stole this information, yes?
Yes.
So, I would guess that it's that kind of magic? Possibly. Might be wrong.
Possibly.
But that would be my best guess.
Out of magic? Or something else?
Like Sophia's death?
Oh no. Oh, that's... And Hestia is having a moment right now because as she's thinking about that, there is the part of her that is smart and going, oh, fuck no, we gotta not be tied to that. Then there is the scientist, slightly power-hungry side of her that's going, oh, what? If I got my hands on that book, oh my god. Pausing for a minute, and it's like her brain slightly short-circuiting. No, that's bad. We don't want... Do we not... No, see, we don't want any more trouble, see, and that's bad. We don't want that. Wait.
But yeah, so long story short, we're even more fucked?
You know, just once, I'm gonna be fucked. I'd like to fucking enjoy it. That hasn't happened yet. Wait, no, never mind. Forget I said that.
It's not as much fun as it used to be. And she shrugs.
I kinda wouldn't know. Because before I was dead, I could have been a nun.
Yeah, it's not as much fun as it used to be.
that's neither here nor there. Let's not get bogged down in details, but
Fair enough. Fair enough. We're still fucked. But yeah.
Well, let's minimize the amount of fucked that we are, possibly. Is that a thing we can do? Like, you know...
Well, there's 3 people that I can think of right away who would like this information. And that would be our dear friends down in Dalston. Our new friend Decibel. Okay, I guess 4 people. My sire. Yeah, reasons. And, well, their dad?
Who's that?
Their dad? Lucio's dad?
Oh shit. Sorry, I forgot that was a thing for a second. But yeah, okay. Oh crap, if he wants it, then it's bad. Okay, so here's what I'm going to propose. Because I kind of have to talk to this person anyway. Would you like to come with me to the Chantry House? And we can get to Stobble the information or the disc to hold and get it out of our hands, and then if something were to happen, we never had it.
Before we do that, why don't you come take a look at some of these names? Because you might not want them to have it either.
Oh, shit. Okay, let's go. Let's take it to the office, and then while we're in the office, I'll call the lawyer and get that sorted, and then we can decide what to do with that, and then hopefully stop this whole fucking ceremony thing.
Deal.
Man always says that there's a connection and a pattern to everything. We all pick it out. We always make our pattern. We always make it so that the one thing adds to the next and forms this picture to make it all make sense. In fact, it's coming into common parlance of that phrase being relevant. Make it make sense. Because we are all searching for a reason and a rhyme to things, how things can add up in such a way that we could have either saw it coming or found a way to prevent it from happening. Unfortunately, the world doesn't move in that way. Not in truth. All things are cyclical, of course, in their own way, but that cycle stretches and elongates and shortens and moves at its own pace that defies our sense of logic and reason. Which is one of the reasons why, as Lucio and Vivi settle down with their grand and great-grandsire at a mental hospital in the south suburbs that caters to only the worst of the worst as far as society at large considers those that suffer with mental, emotional, and social issues. It is the first moment of peace and the full feeling of security and safety that either Lucio or Vivi has had in months, in years. It's quiet. The room sound that washes over them is absence of malice, and is absence of them being ostracized or othered. There are no technological signs that they are somehow cut adrift from society. There's nothing going haywire in their presence. There isn't any instinctual judgment and fear of the dark that tremulates through the air around them. It's homey. It's quaint. It's strangely warm and inviting despite the ever-present gloom in the corners of the room. how the shadows lightly dance based on what they say and how they feel. It is the first time they've been embraced by the absence of warmth of the dark and not felt as if it was something crawling in their souls, pulling them further into hell. Sitting on the opposite side of the room, a few feet away, was Laura Blakeney, and with her, Adam, Latifah Torres, and Tina Teeny Midowski, all of her surviving children. And despite all of the misgivings had, all of the enmity held, all of the battles that have gotten them to this point between Laura, Lucio, Vivi, and the world around them, there's a camaraderie in the acceptance of the darkness that exists. And while there's no way to judge it because you haven't spent time in her presence, and there's no way to really write it in your mind, it is very easy to see that Latifah and Laura are actually quite happy that you're here. So you've reconsidered our offers, and that's always a good thing. What brings you, Lucio?
Two things. First, I realized that after some pondering, I think that I was behaving rather childish the last time you and I spoke. I've had some misgivings initially about this whole state of affairs, but all in all, I am where I am now because, at least in part, because of you.
Yes. Yeah. It would be appropriate in some semblance for me to apologize for killing you. But I can't do that. I wouldn't do that. You've proven that steel sharpens steel, and that even in one of my worst moments, that I've created a progeny strong enough to stand against the powers of the world. So, instead of an apology for ending your mortal life, I'll thank you for gifting me mine back. So what can we do for the two of you? Because I take it that you've all found a way to find some semblance of balance amongst yourself.
The second reason I'm here is because, as cliche as it is to say this, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Watchseek has made quite an enemy of us. He's taken things too far, and it's time to put him in his place. I've received word that he is going to be at St. Jerome's tonight, but he won't be in power, so to speak, until tomorrow. There is going to be a period of time where he must reattune to the ley lines of St. Jerome. It may be the only time in a long time that he will be vulnerable.
Yes, the last time he was vulnerable was when his son was killed.
Lucio smiles a little bit at that. Which time?
So it's true. You were responsible for his other son's death. There is a connection between every living thing that we are, by dint of having died, invisible to. There is a biosphere, a energy that exists for the living that we are no longer privy to. However, in death, in this existence of our immortality, there is a connection of blood, of vitae. That which powers me, powers you. And then she looks at Vivi. Powers you with certain rituals, with certain applications of that vitae. Those connections can be seen, they can be felt, they can be tracked and followed. And in one of those instances of the last vestiges of some human frailty on my part, it was enacted. And instead of finding you, Lucio, we found Don Castiglione's other son. And Latifah speaks up. And in finding Don Castiglione's son, we attempted to make contact with him. We attempted to broker a conversation. Because after all, if we're able to talk, that means that we're not fighting. And while he seemed open, and seemed to be listening, and seemed to be willing to hear us out, his mother perhaps not so much so, at least not initially. But in the last few weeks, there have been overtures made by representatives of the Castiglione family at Mama Cass's urging. We thought it might be a trap or an attempt at such. But it seems as if with you here and divulging where Don Castiglione will be, that it may be accurate. Do you have a plan as to how we might actually ensure that Don Castiglione is no longer a thorn in anyone else's side?
I have a goal in mind to kill him tonight. The specifics of it may still need to be ironed out, but what I do know is that it has to be tonight.
So tonight it'll be. I do need a small thing from you. Something that you won't miss at all. Something that will bond us closer in this act of assassination.
What is it?
Are you aware of the bond?
bond?
The love that we have enforced by the validity and sanctity of the vitae.
I'm familiar with it, yes.
I need you to take a step along that path with me.
Exactly how far down this?
It is a sweet thing. It is a loving thing. It is a thing of power. But because you are, in fact, by relations of your no longer living blood with the Don, and we are aware as to how deeply he can set his tenterhooks into those of his familial relations. If you are willing to accept the bond, the first steps towards it, we know that there is some semblance of trust in you. We have some trust in you because of the bond of our vitae. However, you understand how devious he is. You understand how willing to engage in all sorts of pernicious evils he is. You understand how many layers of plans, plots, and, well, he is not the devil, but he is very, very close.
I'm all too familiar with it.
So a drink for you and your child from me. A drink of you and your child by me as proof that your familial relations have no factor in what it is that we are preparing to do, because this will be war. If we fail, or if we're caught in the act, Prince Jackson and the government can very well declare war against Dalton as a whole, because I am in fact Senator Blakeney. And you are a hound. And you are the son of Don Castiglione. And you, and she looks at Vivi, are his childer, which means he could be exerting all sorts of control over you. And while I believe that you are quite tasty, and I'm fairly sure that Lucio here is quite strong in his vitae, I'm stronger. So any bonds that you've all made amongst yourself that may be proof against most would not be proof against my vitae. So one drink, one step along that path, and we will march into the mouth of hell. We will risk war with the government of the gleaming jewel of the Camarilla here in the Midwest. We will risk it because there will be some semblance of trust between us.
Out of character, knowing what Lucio knows about the bond, one drink isn't enough, even if she's stronger of blood, correct? For like a full bond.
No, it's not strong enough for a full bond, but it would, because of the generational difference between you and the potency of her blood, if you were bonded of an equal level with anyone else, it would break that.
Gotcha.
As far as she's aware, you've never sampled any blood stronger than hers.
So with that in mind, knowing what Lucio knows about that other blood that he's tasted, would she be made aware of that during this?
Oh, it is most assuredly a potentiality, but not a likelihood. In fact, it may be taken as a feather in her cap that her vitae has proved to be such a fine vintage, even watered down through a generation.
Going back into character. He looks to Vivi. And looks back to Laura.
Vivi smirks. She's normally very closed off, but in this moment, being so safe, secure, and sound, and in the element that crawls through your veins, she actually smirks. She actually shares something that isn't pure sass or an affront or an attack or a way to unbalance you so she can read your emotions. It's actually an expression of, being witness to something that seems a little taboo, something that seems a little too good to be true.
Very well. We'll do it.
I like the way that you're speaking for me, but sure, let's do this. If it will bring down the Castigliones, because the other reason, and she stops herself. She looks to you, she looks to Blakeney. Why do I feel as if I'm in the room with my grandparents right now? Because in the way you are. And with that, Blakeney bites into her wrist, and the scent of vitae that hits the room feels as if you've been beat across the face with a bat. It is so thick and cloying and sweet. And while it is clearly a good vintage, for such a learned sommelier of blood and vitae, Lucio knows that while it is in fact top shelf, it is not the highest of the top shelf. He's tasted and bathed in more elite vitae, but it will definitely be good and probably the best that Vivi has had.
There's also a part of Lucio that's noticing that her style, like biting into her wrist and letting another drink from it. Lucio does the exact same thing when he's offering blood to someone else. And he's wondering, is this like a family thing? Did he pick it up from her by accident?
There is more than a small bit of merit to it, because while everyone knows humans don't have instincts, at least that's the commonality, that's the common thought. The truth of the matter is humans do. There is memory that is passed down on a genetic level that we are not consciously aware of, but play havoc with the rest of our lives. And we learn and absorb those traits and that information in a way that we are not aware of, but persists throughout most of our interactions, right down to certain fetishes and kinks. And so as you all take part in something that is a rarity, a three-way bonding, the first steps along the way of enforcing attraction, love, and trust through the vitae, happening to you all, with you all, by you all, Vivi's learning. Vivi has been through all sorts of training to affect others psychologically, how to study others, how to do various seemingly mystical things to people based on their psychological responses. But as far as the world is concerned, as far as the supernal, the supernatural, the world of the kindred, she is, in fact, only a few months old. And this is the accelerated course. This is moving beyond all sense of first steps. This is a baby going from crawling, boot scooting across the floor to driving on the Autobahn. It is overwhelming. And there's no small part of Lucio that remembers what it was like when he tasted, when he drank of actual older kindred's vitae, mellowed and aged and enriched over the years. He understands what that moment is like, that first sip of that dark cup, that sweet nectar. And much like a parent watching their kids pull off their first skateboard trick, or ride their bike by themselves, or learn to parallel park, there's a sense and semblance of pride in that moment, knowing what they are experiencing. And as you all drink deeply enough to have that first steps, to have that first sip, and despite himself, Lucio judging its merit, its taste, its notes, how it feels on the tongue, its mouthfeel, its dryness, and while he's doing all of this mentally, internally, without anyone being any the wiser, that he had enough of himself maintained and has sampled deeply enough of higher vintage that this is, well, it's not Tuesday. It is a very interesting Thursday night for him. It's not the defining moment that it is for others. A pact is formed, a deal is sealed, and in that moment of sharing that blood with each other and with Blakeney, you know that she very well intends everything that she says. You know in that moment that she very much has been in contact with Mama Cass, that you know for a fact that she very much has been willing to deal with the enemy of her enemy to achieve a long-ranging success. And now they are able to potentially seize that moment sooner. You know that of all of her children, that these three are in fact the strongest. Of all of her children, these three have gone out into the world and made some things of themselves. These three are leaders and captains in their own right of various networks of information and associates. These three are a cadre of darkness that the United States military would be envious to have the use of. And you all are now simpatico and aimed at the heart of Don Castiglione. And speaking of the heart of Don Castiglione, Miriam, the information there is no less scary the second time perusing it. The information that flashes across the screen as Hestia absently texts and finds the number for her lawyer and begins to dial is no less dangerous. This is a hit list by any other means. These are people that you would need to mitigate and remove from operation to stop whatever machinery, the social machinery that is in place from activating. These people, these beings are interconnected in such a way that you could, with the right maneuvers, with the right combination, with the right pressures, with the right buttons being pushed, cause the downfall of several different industries within the kindred community. And it's worse now knowing that amongst this list of people amongst this list of beings, are individuals connected with the Sabbat. Not just the Sabbat, but an archbishop. And that archbishop is within spitting distance of where you all are. And Hestia, looking over that information, it is hard to not think of that lodestone that has suddenly gone missing. It's hard to not think of that lodestone and where it was intended to be delivered. It's hard not thinking of Dizzy and the fact that she was used by a Sabbat agent to bring a weapon of mass casualty in the Chicagoland area. Information sitting on that screen is dangerous enough and distracting enough that the call to the lawyer doesn't quite make it. You're still 2 digits from completing the phone number, and you see the name of the artist that was responsible for Stryker's human decanters during his party, his Imperium party, where everything went to hell, where Newberry made his attack against Lucio, where the information that the kindred actually existed breached the internet and was swallowed up, where kindred were outed as kindred, or at least the information of such was put out there to be used. The place where, now that you think about it, Stryker officially declared war on Arzuli. Now that you think about it, the place where Simone's paranoia proved to be true. People were actually out there in the wings working against not just the kindred in general, but against you all specifically. The names on that list and that artist that connected with those human decanters that were forced to serve kindred. That's a scary thing. From the very beginning, you all have been playing in a tornado. You have been running amok in a field of natural destruction. And other people have had their hands on your throat, on the base of your necks, and guiding you through this minefield.
See what I mean?
And right now I am somewhere between turn it all the fuck down and we have to figure out what to do. Because this could destroy a lot of things, but at the same time, it could fucking keep us out of shit too. I mean, can you imagine? I'm not the type to typically blackmail people, but the amount of fucking damage we could do with this shit.
Yes.
People would be smart enough to mess with us, but at the same time, they'd be trying to kill us, keep us from talking or getting this information. Which means we need to protect ourselves, shape or form. I hate to say like make copies or whatever, but I don't know what else to do. I mean, is it like we're fucked either way? But maybe there's a way we could make it be less horrible of a time. I don't. You were saying that the name on the list is something that I would recognize, the artist, or had I heard their name before?
Yep. The Baron of the North, Rickmod. According to the information that you have in front of you, is in fact the Archbishop of the Sabbat in the area. You haven't heard of any Sabbat attacks, you haven't heard of any Sabbat interactions since the late 90s when Loden was killed. When the former prince of the city, was killed by the Sabbat who had infested the area, inciting the lupines into action, and Loden fell like Lucifer Morningstar from the top of the Hancock building. Prince Jackson was noted as being a knight errant, his sword and gun flashing out and protecting many other kindred in the process, where Damien earned his stripes as a furious and fierce defender of kindred who couldn't defend themselves, where the city lost its longest reigning prince. The Sabbat were hunted to extinction. The lupines, an agreement was made there are certain areas that people just don't go, that kindred just don't go. The city's greatest moment of peace was shattered and sundered, and the future as it is now had been laid in place. It was also during that time where your sire ceased to be because of the actions of the Sabbat. It was hell for kindred who were not strong enough to defend themselves. It was horrible. But as far as the world is concerned, there are no Sabbat in the Chicagoland area. Yet here it is, according to this information, that there is an archbishop that has not only been allowed to live, but clearly does business with the toreador of the city, that clearly has inside information as to how the government operates.
I didn't fight so hard for this place in the first place. I would have probably taken Arzuli up on her offer to come live in Alton, because I swear to God, fucking Chicago is full of corrupt, backstabbing bastards. I understand they've lived for centuries, and some of them maybe even fucking millennia, but is that all that you do with your time when you get past a certain age, like plot and scheme and backstab and
Well,
as a hound, I am supposed to go to this address, since I know about it, and fucking do something about that, because fucking Sabbat, power, fights, kill, that sort of thing. I want no parts of this.
so in theory, if I'm remembering my history correct, the Zumis were once a part of the Sabbat before it fell apart. So it's not unlikely that he defected, and it was more the younger, uncouth, untrained that were the foot soldiers, so to speak. As you get older, you tend to not to want to die more. You take less risks. But that said, my sire once held the title of Voivode. He may be able to do something about this. Or Decibel. I'd be more inclined to go to my sire, though.
I owe them. I normally would say you should never judge a book by its cover, or, I mean, how? If I listened to half of the things about Gosambra, Lucio and I would have never been friends. I would have found out what he was and gotten rid of him somehow. But here we are. But when I was new, we moved, and only but a month or so dead and learning my way to keep me from gaining the power and understanding that my sire held. They killed her and attempted to kill me. I owe the Sabbat to that one. Yeah, maybe we should give it to your sire, and maybe they can do something about it, and maybe
maybes and
not
maybes.
have to worry.
Maybes and maybes. There's always worry. There's always consideration. And there is looking at the addresses and the names and what's listed there in the information, you realize that according to one of the ripples of the ley lines that connect with the shelter, if you draw a line from that furthest north point, like a lightning bolt, it runs right through the shelter. That little portion there, that mid portion, that purple library symbol, that is Karen's home. That is your northern haven, and there's a line that runs right through them all. And with that consideration in mind, as you're pondering the path of that energy, or the end point of that energy, hell comes to the city in a multiplicity of ways and a multiplicity of moments throughout the day, and especially at night. Chicago's not a place where people go unarmed to strange places. Chicago's a place where, at the end of the day, your beliefs and your stance on things are all that really matter for you, because if you're going to die for something, you might as well die for something you believe in. And it can all be summed up with the idea that that's great, that's wonderful, you can feel however you feel, but can you beat my ass though? And that's a question that rockets through Sophia and Silvio's mind as they watch as another 3 SUVs pull up, this time instead of across the street from St. Jerome's, directly in front of him. Door-to-door service, the sort of service that stars, local notables, politicians, and the like receive. And much like a politician, much like a local celebrity, much like someone of importance, his doors open for him. And out steps an older, wizened version of Lucio. Though, of course, this one doesn't shave. He has a nice mustache. His hair is well coiffed. His suit clearly costing several hundreds of thousands of dollars simply to clothe the body of a dead man. Guarding his door is the platinum blonde visage of Hugo that you've met several times before. Most recently in the exchange of the Don's son to your care. Behind him, her long, graying and dark hair, her frame built for sin, even with her heightened age upon her death, is Mama Cass. From a distance, she looks like this sort of thing that young boys would dream of. But having been in her presence, you realize that there's an insanity there that cannot be contained. And yet, the Don, in his hubris, in his pride, believes that his foot on her throat is secure. And Sophia watch the entourage as they exit the vehicle and make their way towards instead of the front door. They take the path along the side of the building, heading towards a rear entrance. Even as the front doors are completely open for the public, people are entering and exiting. No one pays much attention to the cadre of individuals moving around the side of the building. It is clear, if you were to pay attention to the signs, that they are up to no good and have every surety that nothing can stop them. As the seconds tick by, those seconds turn to minutes, and those minutes into long performance of themselves. With everything up in the air, with revelations as to the information that Ignacio held, with the revelations as to what lies amassed against everyone, with the attunement to be in the offing tonight, and that attunement, without any shadow of a doubt, you know will come with a mass destruction of human lives. I'd like to thank you all for a lovely session and look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you so very much. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. This was an interesting session. Oh my.
Oh, it's great.